This is Mark Carney saying, yeah, no problem, Danielle. Yeah, let's put together a memorandum of understanding. Yeah, we'll do that. And then what happens? Then David Eby says, no, 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 we're not going to have a pipeline at all. And then Mark Carney can say, oh, well, that's unfortunate, Danielle. Mainstream media has been working overtime today, talking about how Mark Carney is working hard with Danielle Smith on an alleged pipeline deal. Are our prayers finally being answered? Or is this just another bait and switch by the Liberals? Let's take a look. So this was dropped in the Globe and Mail earlier this morning. Ottawa, Alberta close to deal that includes oil pipeline to BC coast, sources say. Well, doesn't that sound nice? Alberta and Ottawa appear close to striking an energy accord, long sought by Premier Danielle Smith to boost her province's oil and natural gas sector, with Privy Council clerk Michael Sabia playing a key role in the negotiations, two sources say. Two federal insiders said the broad outlines of the agreement, which would take the form of a memorandum of understanding, involve an oil pipeline running from Alberta to the northwest coast of British Columbia. On the table to support it would be a limited exemption to the current ban on oil tankers on the BC coast, with changes to industrial carbon pricing in support of scaling up carbon capture technology, and a lowering or removal of the industrial emissions cap. Players in the federal and Alberta governments are expressing optimism that a deal is within reach and could be announced in time for next weekend's United Conservative Party of Alberta convention. Ms. Smith told reporters Monday she and Mr. Carney are very keen to proceed with what she called a new vision for her province and the federal government, and suggested it rested on him being able to win over naysayers within his own caucus. Quote, "It may well be that there are some members of his caucus who are not fully on board with that new vision, but I will know in a matter of days whether or not they're influential enough to change the direction that I think the Prime Minister and I want to go," end quote, she said. Ms. Smith had originally said she thought there would be a deal by the Grey Cup, which was on Sunday. Okay, so I saw that this morning, and immediately a few things jumped out at me. Is a pipeline good for Canada? Of course it is. Do we need pipelines in Canada? Absolutely. Why do we need pipelines in Canada? Because it seems the only pipelines we really have are going to the United States, which we sell our oil at a loss. So that's a problem. Because they then take that oil, refine it, and then they sell it to Europe at like 4 or 5 times the price. So clearly they're getting the better end of that deal than we are. Now, we need pipelines going to the West Coast and to the East Coast because we need to get our natural resources to Tidewater so we can mass export it to people that want to buy it. That's what needs to happen. Now, the issue is that David Eby has kept saying, we're not going to allow a pipeline through our province. No, 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 no. And that's been the problem. So when I look at this, this is what I see. The quote-unquote deal that they're looking at coming to is in a memorandum of understanding. That's a memo. That's all it is. There's nothing really binding to it. It just says, yeah, we'll commit to that. Sure. There's nothing really that's binding in that. And here's the thing. There's going to be that problem that I mentioned just a few minutes ago. And this is going to disadvantage Danielle Smith and advantage Mark Carney. So sure enough, a few hours after that initial article was published, this one comes out. Liberal MPs say any Alberta-Ottawa pipeline deal must have backing in BC. Some Liberal MPs say that any deal between Alberta and Ottawa that includes a new pipeline and a limited exemption to a tanker ban must have buy-in from British Columbia, but they stop short of voicing flat-out opposition to such a deal. Stephen Joubert, the former federal environment minister who was often in Ms. Smith's line of fire, told reporters that he wanted to wait and see what's actually in the agreement. In French, he said, "What's under discussion is a possible agreement on a pipeline proposal to the West Coast, which the Prime Minister and other senior ministers have previously said would require full provincial cooperation." Quote, "So, if it were to go to the West Coast, British Columbia would have to agree," end quote, said Mr. Jobot, who is now Canadian Identity Minister. So, what does this mean, folks? Well, this is Mr. Carney playing politics. So this is Mark Carney saying, yeah, no problem, Danielle. Yeah, let's put together a memorandum of understanding. Yeah, we'll do that. And then what happens? Then David Eby says, no, we're not going to have a pipeline at all. And then Mark Carney can say, oh, well, that's unfortunate, Danielle. It's unfortunate, Canada. See, we were all for this, but, we need provincial buy-in, so I guess it's not my fault. I guess you have to blame David Eby and not me. Well, here's the thing. Yes, we can absolutely blame Mark Carney. And why is that? Because he doesn't actually require the permission from David Eby. Because this is a federal project, and they can kind of trump the provinces when it comes to this stuff if they designate it a federal project. So you don't actually need David Eby's permission to do this. And why are we letting ideology get in the way of unlocking our resources in Canada? This isn't a political issue, or at least it shouldn't be. This isn't a partisan issue. This is an economic issue. And I would even argue a national security issue. So this is what needs to happen. Mark Carney and the government have to actually say, we're the federal government, and this project is in the interest of all of Canada. So this is what's happening. Suck it up, David Eby, because we're coming in. Now, you can either work with us or you can work against us. But either way, this is getting done. Now, why are we thinking that Mark Carney isn't actually all in on a pipeline? Well, you probably have seen this clip, but just in case you haven't, we'll show it to you. This is Mark Carney just a couple weeks ago on November the 7th.
One of my questions was, is this pipeline going to come? So
It's so boring.
it's not actually.
It is.
For
It is. No,
a
but it
big part
is.
of the
It is
country.
because it's. Look, it's. Don't worry. We're on it. We're on it. Like we're on it.
And
But
who's
there is
showing
this
up to
whole
that
world.
party?
Okay, hands up. Who's working on the pipeline in this room? Okay.
Isn't
Right.
that a problem?
No. Look at all the variety. Like, Nav. Like, does your like it's. We have.
Yeah, if there's more prosperity, they'll get more cell phone services.
But look. Okay, so what's going to drive one of the things? Yeah, don't worry. We're on the pipeline stuff. Danielle's on line one. Don't worry, it's going to happen. But well, something's going to happen. Let's put it that way. It's not very good negotiating by my perspective.
Gee, Mark Carney sure sounded serious about a pipeline when he was talking there. It's going to happen. Then corrects himself. Well, something's going to happen. Yeah, that something is he's going to write a memo. That's what I read from this. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Because we do need a pipeline. And we need a pipeline out of Alberta. We really, really do. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Mark Carney is kind of playing this the way he played Doug Ford. So if something goes wrong, the other person gets to take the blame. Everyone gets mad at Doug Ford. David Eby overrules the pipeline. He says, well, sorry, not my fault. That's David Eby's fault. Undermines the NDP out in British Columbia. And a lot of the Liberal supporters, they'll believe it. They'll believe it. Well, Mark Carney tried. Conservatives can't blame him for this. Actually, we can, because he has jurisdiction. He may want to be polite, but when it comes to the overall prosperity and national security of this country, this is where the federal government has to say, no, this is what's happening, and this is what needs to happen. Too long, we have let politics get in the way of actually running this country. What if when we were building the National Railroad, we had a couple of provinces say, we don't want that dirty old railroad coming across our province? Can you imagine? Can you imagine if that happened? And where would we be today? we certainly wouldn't be where we are. And this is where you wish there was a conservative government in power right now, because they would say, David Eby, you know what? Get out of the frickin' way, because we need to unlock our resources, we need to unlock jobs, and we need to bring more money into this country instead of sending money out to everywhere. Let's have some money come into Canada for a change, and let's actually have some prosperity for a change for the first time in over 15 years in this country. That's what they would say. So again, I hope I'm wrong. Hopefully this actually happens, but based on how I see the politics playing out here, this is what I think is likely to happen.